And welcome to yet another episode of Face to Face, coming to you direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo, bringing you face to face after quite some time. I am Jayamal Ratnayake for the Newsfirst team. My guest tonight is no stranger to the show. He has frequented the Face to Face studios often, but as of late, he has flown under the radar and has emerged once again, making his first media appearance for 2025, I believe, on Face to Face. So my guest today is Rehan Jayawickreme, former chairman of the Waligama Urban Council and also the current organizer for the Waligama Electorate representing the Sampagi Janabalawege. Welcome, Rehan.
Hello,
welcome
Jayamal.
back.
Hi.
So Rehan, how have you been? I heard, it's common knowledge that Rehan Jayawickreme took a break after the November 2024 general election. He said bye-bye to Waligama. He bid adieu. But now, after a couple of months, Rehan is back in the fray. Why is he back in the fray?
First of all, thank you, Jayamal, to you and Newsfirst for having me on your show. So basically, the reason I quit at that time was because I first entered politics when I was, I think, 31.
Right.
And I won my first election in 2018. That's when I became the chairman of the Waligama Urban Council. But then after that, I eventually got kicked out of the UMP for supporting Mr. Sajith Premadasa in his 2019 election. So I worked very hard for that election as well. The next year, which is 2020, I was not supposed to contest that election, but because of the request made by former Minister late Mangala Samarveera and Sajith Premadasa, I accepted to run, knowing the fact that we would only get about 2 or 3 in Matara.
Right.
I lost that election. Then in 2024, which is last year, I really wanted to not contest that election again.
Right.
Because I knew that it was going to be tough in Matara. But then again, because of various requests by the leadership, I contested that particular election.
Right.
I actually increased my vote base from 2020 to 2024. I got 13,000 the first time and I got 18,000 the last time. And I lost that election. But that loss had a profound impact on my general well-being.
Okay.
Because I thought that I've sacrificed 8 to 9 years for this. I didn't feel like I reaped any benefits. I also felt like I spent a lot of time away from my home, from my wife and my children.
Right.
My children are very young. They're only 6 and 5, which means they were not even born when I started. And when I did that last election, they would have been about 3 or 4.
Right.
So I gave it my all. And there were certain things that were happening within the party as well, certain ways that I feel that there was injustice against me or carried out against me. And I made it a point to say adieu to politics. At that time, I didn't know that I'll be back so soon. But in that particular post, I did say that I may be coming back.
Right.
But this time around, I had 58 candidates that I gave leadership at the last local government election.
Right.
And they made a request from me saying that they worked for me for the past 8 years and for me to actually return the favor and overlook their elections.
I see.
So round about the 11th or 12th, Mr. Sajith Premadasa and the General Secretary, Mr. Ranjit Madhum Bandara, both spoke to me and they wanted me to accept this. I told them that I'm not in a position to contest because I have just lost. And I said, I don't just want to contest election without knowing what's going to really happen to my political career. So they invited me back to Waligama and I accepted the role as Waligama organizer. And I'm going to do my utmost to ensure that the candidates that we put forward will win.
So in 2018, I believe the Waligama Urban Council was the only local government agency.
That and Tangol.
And Tangol.
Yeah.
That was won by the UNP at the time because the SJB was...
Correct.
He had still not been formed. So this year, on the 6th of May, the SJB will be partaking in its first local government election. Apart from how things are in the south, how do you believe preparations for across the country are being carried out by the SJB and its leadership?
Jayamal, you and I both know that when there's incumbent government in place and when there's an election running up to just 3 or 4 months after they got elected, the likelihood of them winning is very high. Now, I'm not saying we're going to lose, but we need to somehow amplify our efforts to obtain a vast number of local government authorities around the country. So I think the footwork for that and the work for that has already been started by the party. Mr. Sajith Premadasa and the General Secretary, along with the other members of the party, are going to each of the 25 districts in Sri Lanka. So the 27th is Matara. I think they just finished Colombo and Gampaha. So they're coming, because what I basically told my candidates is it doesn't really matter whether this is the party's view or not, because this is a village election. What I have told my candidates is that do not make this a money spending election. And do not expect me to give you all money for your elections. I said, I will come for your meetings. The reason I said that, Jayamal, is because when you look at the pattern of how the NPP won the last election and how the NPP or the JVP has been winning elections, is spending as little money as possible on their elections. So my advice to my candidates was, go house to house. Complete at least 2 or 3 rounds by the 25th of April. And from the 25th of April, have one ward meeting in your ward which you represent. Because my contention point was, why would you spend money and lose elections, and why do people in the NPP not spend money and win elections? So I've completely told them to cut off the spending. I've told them not to spend as much money. I've told them to go, like I told you, house to house, because I think this is a very personal election where they
speak to the people.
Speak to the people, speak to them. And another thing I've told them is, do not criticize the government for things that they promised you before. Because, you know, that doesn't make sense. I said criticize them for the actions now. But do not go back to the past and say, oh, you know, they said they're going to give us freebies, they said they're going to give you this, that and everything. Because, Jayamal, if we did give freebies, the country would have collapsed. But they had to stick to the IMF program. Anyone would have had to stick to the IMF program. So I have given guidelines. I'm going to Veligama again within the next few days. I'll be spending a lot of my time there. My main focus is to make sure that the Veligama team, who I trust with absolute faith and confidence, my goal is to see them win. Because if they win, Veligama wins. If Veligama wins, Matara wins. And if Matara wins, the rest of the country wins.
So, Rehan, you seem to have a very well thought out vision for this particular electorate that you're overlooking. But in recent times, it seems as if those in the upper echelons of the SJP, particularly the opposition leader or the party leader, Sajith Premadasa, the General Secretary, and several others, seem to be lacking that vision. Because in 2024, when the presidential election happened, Sajith Premadasa lost to Anukumar Dissanayake. Later on, 2 months later, at the general election, the SJP faced another defeat. And it's been defeat after defeat for Sajith Premadasa. And there have also been certain rumors that there are, well, disagreements between certain members holding power within the party on particular matters. And you said yourself in your opening remarks that you felt unfairly treated at times. And I'm pretty sure that there are several other young politicians, who I will not name, who have also come forward and expressed their dismay and displeasure to the media about how the party is being run. So do you believe opposition leader Sajith Premadasa is the man for the job?
I'm going to give you a straight up answer for this, because, you know, Jamal, when you conduct interviews with me, I don't mince my words when it comes to things.
Exactly.
But I see a fundamental flaw here. I see members criticizing Mr. Premadasa outside, but I don't see them doing it within the party. We have a working committee. We have a central committee, executive committee. I have been a part of the working committee. Now, most of these people who have issues with Mr. Premadasa's leadership do not bring this up at the working committee.
They don't voice their concerns.
They don't challenge Mr. Premadasa.
I see. Why is that? Is there no democracy within the party?
No. To be very honest, every meeting that he conducts within the working committee, he gives people the right to speak. Now, if you really want Mr. Premadasa out, it's not something that a junior member like I can decide. And I'm not going to be even very vocal about it. Because, for example, Jamal, you work in an organization where you have your chairman. If there's an uprising against the chairman, you're not going to go and immediately get involved in it. Unless, you know, I'm just giving you an example, organizational structure. So my issue is that the decision makers in the SJB have let Mr. Premadasa continue and have also expressed their confidence in his leadership. So if this revolt has to happen, it has to happen from within the party and from the top.
Right.
Because what it seems like to me is that all these people who criticize his leadership don't utter a word at working committee.
Right.
So I feel that Mr. Premadasa also probably feels like he's unchallenged.
I see.
But, you know, you can challenge him. For example, I have told him what my concerns were. I told him at the last election that certain decisions that we were making as a party will ultimately result in the voters losing their confidence in us.
Right.
But I didn't make it public because it's something between me and my leader.
Exactly.
And I had this same conversation with him when he called me after I lost. And when he said, why are you quitting? I'm not going to say it here, but I gave him the outlines. I gave him some of the mistakes that he was making. And he told me then and there, he said, you know, I know that I made these mistakes, but I am working on becoming a better leader.
Rectifying those
mistakes. So Jayamal, I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, the people watching are not perfect. So neither is a leader. So there are certain inadequacies when it comes to Mr. Premadasa's leadership. But if he addresses them and if he takes firm decisions, sky's the limit for him. It's still not too late.
Right.
So it's all up to Mr. Premadasa.
Right.
Because he has shown signs very recently of adapting to change.
Right.
So I hope those changes are long lasting. And the advice I can give to my party is that the youth is different. I don't classify as youth anymore. I have spent countless elections, 2 elections losing for the sake of the party. I lost my mayorship because of this party. I have been in this party since the day it was first formed.
Yes.
You know, what we tell the leadership, we tell out of good faith and good spirit. And I hope Mr. Premadasa, he knows the certain things I told him, which is almost the same things that others are telling him. And to those who are giving voice cuts about leadership change and, you know, talking ill of Mr. Premadasa, show him that at the working committee. Challenge him, because from what I know, Mr. Premadasa does like to be challenged when it comes to certain things.
Right.
And show him where he's going wrong. And most likely he will adapt, and if he doesn't, it's his loss.
Right. So Rehan, you have very staunchly defended Sajid Premadasa for the longest time, since 2019, since the UNP was delaying Sajid Premadasa's candidature as the presidential candidate. And in 2019, I remember seeing you speaking to the media outside Vauxhall Street saying that you will defend Sajid Premadasa. And since then, you have continued to defend your leader. And someone who is looking in from the outside, looking at you, well, you said you're not youthful anymore, but the benchmark is such that you are still a young politician when it comes to Sri Lankan politics. For a neutral viewer, and I appreciate how candid you were, you alluded that there were certain inadequacies, there were certain shortcomings from the part of the leadership that led to the SJB going down this path. But a neutral viewer might wonder why Rehan Jayawickreme is still with the SJB. Is it due to the lack of an alternative, or is it because he truly believes that the SJB can turn this around?
Number one, Jayamal, when it came to mentioning inadequacies, I didn't make it clear, but I'll just tell you one thing which I said. The minute that we started taking certain groups of people from the SLPP,
yes,
I specifically said don't do it. And I don't know whether it's because I was junior that my voice was heard, but I said it in good faith because I always echo the sentiments of the public. My job is the public.
Yes.
My job is to echo the sentiments of the public. My job is really not my job. My job is also your job because I'm a public I'm a public servant.
Yes.
And my will is towards the people of this country. So when you ask me why am I still with the SJB, it's because idealistically I think my views, because I classify as a libertarian, which also sort of equates to I have certain center-right principles. And they're very much
in line with the
SJBs as well. So I see the SJB as a party that does not belong to one man, but it belongs to our ideology, which is why you get Harsha in the SJB, Iran, the progressive...
The leaders, so a progressive...
Center-right, yeah. They are all in the SJB. And the reason I'm still with the SJB as of now is because I had a commitment that I needed to fulfill towards my 58 local government reps who supported me for the past 8 years.
Right.
Because what sort of leader would I be if I'm going to desert them? I can't really do that. And that's the reason why I'm in it right now. But the long and the short and sweet of your question would be, it's because I think my ideology is also the great ideology of the SJB.
But surely there has to be a breaking point if the SJB does continue this way and there isn't any meaningful reform done. You will have to
Jayamal, did you notice that when I left the SJB, did you hear me once attacking the leadership? Did you hear me once airing out dirty laundry in public? That's not my style.
Yes.
I don't do that. But like I said, Mr. Sajith Premadasa has a golden opportunity now because he's made mistakes. Some of it has been rectified. There's another lot that remains to be rectified. So, I mean, he'll probably watch this show and he'll know what I'm talking about because he knows that I have nothing to hide, and that's the reason why people like us thrive in this SJB, which is why people like Kusum Vijayathilaka, for example, thrives in this SJB, because there is not a party in Sri Lanka, Jayamal, where we can come and sit down candidly like this and talk about the shortcomings of our party. Do you see that in the NPP? Do you see the Pohotua people coming and doing that? We have an open platform that has been given by the leadership to say whatever we want. And to be really frank with you and really honest, there has not been one time Mr. Premadasa has called me and said, Rehan, you have a loose mouth, please control your mouth, or something to that effect. I would be very honest with the man. He has never said that. He has never told me what to say or what not to say at an interview. Again, which is why I think this party is our party, and people like us with loose mouths, people's mouths, freedom of speech, why we belong in this party.
Right.
So the rectifying is up to the office bearers. I'm only in the working committee at the moment. I am not an elected representative. I do not represent parliament. I am only one working committee out of the 90-odd working committee members there are. So, if Mr. Premadasa listens to us, if Mr. Premadasa knows what's good for him, he would make these changes, and I'm sure to change is not that hard, but the results we will get will be faster than the time that it took to change. Because the minute that people start thinking, oh, the SJB is doing something right, that's when the people will start flocking to vote again.
Right.
Because right now what I see is, I see criticism towards this government, but I don't see any positivity from our side as well.
Right.
So I think that will improve.
So the SJB has to take on the task of the opposition and represent the voice of the people who are criticizing the government and who believe that the government needs to bring out the reforms that it promised.
And if the people of this country tell us, Horu ek ekathu wenna epa, or don't go and surround yourselves with rogues, that's what we got to do.
Right.
Because isn't that what the NPP did? Did the NPP take anyone notable during the election campaign? So what I'm saying is, look at winning models and do a self-analysis as to why they won and what are the things that they did to win. All we have to do is to emulate it and do it even better.
Right. So you mentioned a very important fact there, the Horut Ekka Ekathu Wenna Epa tagline, or not to form coalitions or go into bed with thieves, so to speak. As of late, probably before the local government election, I know the SJB is now contesting under the telephone symbol as their own party. But committees were appointed from both sides of the SJB and the UNP of a possible unification between the SJB and the UNP. Tissa Attanayaka, who represented that committee from the SJB, removed himself as well. And although the talks might have not gone as planned, and eventually the SJB decided to contest alone, there was a particular idea to remarry the two parties. So, were you in agreement with what happened? I know it did not pan out that way, but had it happened, would you have taken on the role of the electorate organizer of that government?
No. And the reasoning behind that is, why did people vote for the SJB when we split from the UMP? Because they thought that we were the better party. Why did we leave the UMP? One reason was the bond scam.
Right.
The other was the Easter Sunday massacre. Right? Now we have some members of our own party saying that the bond scam didn't happen. Right? So if the UMP is on the opinion that the bond scam didn't happen, and we very well know that it did happen, how can we go and form an alliance with a party that we split from because we were ideologically different? You know, the people of this country voted. They voted against Ranil Wickremesinghe. They voted against Mr. Sajith Premadasa. A lot of people say that if the two got together that we could have won the election. How is that possible? Because the SJB crowd wanted Sajith to be president and the UMP crowd wanted Mr. Wickremesinghe to be president. So how does it equate that, you know, just because we get together that the 2 point something they got and the 3 point something that we got would have beaten Anukumara Dissanayake. So that is the ridiculous and utterly foolish, you know, comments that our own people are making.
Right.
So I don't think we need to get back together with the UMP. But if we get together with the UMP at any cost, it should be with Mr. Wickremesinghe not being the leader.
Right.
It doesn't matter whether it's Ruwan Wijewardene or anyone, Navin Dissanayake or whoever. But there has to be a change in that leadership because it is because of that leadership that we broke away.
So do you believe the current, well, I believe membership, or rather the current MPs or the group of MPs of the SJB are fully willing and committed to ensure the victory of the SJB? Or do you still believe that there might be backdoor dealings with the UNP that are happening?
There have always been backdoor dealings with the UMP. Some of our MPs don't know whether they are coming or going. Even they, I'm probably sure when they wake up in the morning, even they don't know whether they are in the SJB or with the UMP.
I asked you this question with a particular statement or with a particular idea in mind, because former President Ranil Wickremesinghe's birthday was on the 24th of March, and during a religious ceremony that was organized to celebrate his birthday, one MP and another member of the SJB had attended that particular event, which might give off a very wrong message to the SJB's followers and your party loyalists. Don't you think the SJB needs to get its membership in line?
That again is up to the leadership. That again is something that I don't want to comment on because I have absolutely no power over any disciplinary committee or any of that sort. So that is again things that the leadership has to take into consideration. And you know, you can't demand loyalty. You can only expect loyalty to be given to you if you do what's right as a leader. So some of the firm decisions that the SJB has not made is the resulting outcome of all this. So that again is up to the leadership.
So
fix yourselves before you wreck yourselves.
What's your reasoning or what's your reading of the party chairman removing himself, Mr. Imtiaz Bakir Makar?
You know, Imtiaz Bakir Makar is one of my role models, and I've told you that multiple times. He has been one politician that I look at and I want to emulate. And it's sad that he left. But I'll tell you a funny thing that happened when I did call him, right? I called him the very next day and he answered the phone. And he said, Rehan, balana Rehan, wa enakota mama gihilla ne. And then I asked him in English, I said, you know, what are going to be your future plans? You know, what he said was a lot of people are expecting him to blackguard Sajith Premadasa, Mr. Premadasa and the SJB. He said, he's not going to do that. He said he has had his time in politics. He's been there in politics since the 1970s as a young youth leader who captained the Ananda College, Buddhist Ananda College debating team. He's been one of the most inspirational politicians alive. And the fact that he told me that he was not going to criticize the party, even though the very same party did not give him the national list. And for him to sort of have that cool demeanor about him and to say that, you know, I'm not going to criticize anyone, it shows the caliber of man that he is, which is one of the main reasons why I didn't criticize the party when I left. Because there have been times where Mr. Premadasa has been absolutely good to me. he has given me with responsibility that no other political leader would have given me. And out of that, and out of the fact that my upbringing taught me that, you should never be critical of someone who has even given you a plate of rice, for example. That's a very famous thing. Gratitude. So I had gratitude for that. But yeah, Imtiaz Bakir Marker's departure from the party is something that is irreplaceable. The next best chairman, I think, would be Kabir Hashim. I'm saying that very openly. I just don't think anyone else who would be more suited for that role than Kabir Hashim. And I hope that Mr. Kabir Hashim gets it. I think Rohini Kabiratne is also in the running. She's a fantastic lady. People like Rehan Jayawickreme, another fantastic leader, he's also in the fray. So I think they'll give it to a good one. And I just think that maybe with the level of experience that we need to steer the party forward. Because Jayamal, one thing that we forget is the SJB's constitution. Do you know that the second most powerful person in the party is the chairman, not the general secretary? Our party constitution states that it's the leader, chairman, and then the general secretary. So Ranjit Madhu Mandara, our general secretary, is actually doing a fantastic job when it comes to handling things with regard to bureaucracy. But I think that someone that can take the party to a even more professional outlook and a more professional standing is Kabir Hashim.
There's much to be discussed. Rehan Jayawickreme back in the fray, back in the media, discussing all things politics and local government elections. We must cross over for a short commercial break. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
Newsfirst, face to face with Jamal Ratnayaka.
උතුරු මැද පළාතේ අනුරාධපුර දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ දකුණු මායිමට වන්නට පිහිටා ඇති ගල්නෑව ස්වභාව සෞන්දර්යයෙන් අනූන සාරවත් කෘෂිකාර්මික ජීවන රටාවකට උරුමකම් කියන්නේ අනුරාධපුර රාජධානියේ ඓතිහාසික විශිෂ්ටත්වයට ජීවමාන සාක්ෂියක් බවට පත්වෙමින් මෙවන් වූ ඓතිහාසික වටිනාකමකින් යුත් රාජ්‍ය රට පුරවරයේ ගල්නෑවට මෙවර සිරස වසන්ත උදානය අරගෙන අපි එනවා.
Get me Moira now!
Aquarius! Oh, what a baby.
Prefect. Saturday and Sunday at 6:30 p.m. on TV1.
වසන්තයේ මහා මංගල්‍යය සිරස වසන්ත උදානය 2025
ශ්‍රී ලංකා මහවැලි අධිකාරිය හා එක්ව මෙවර ගල්නෑවට
පාපෙදි තරග හා ගම හරහා දෙවීමේ තරග කාන්තා පිරිමි
කොට්ටපොර ගැසීම
කම්බෑදීම
දෑස් පැඳ මුට්ටිය බිඳීම
ලිස්සන ගහ නැගීම
ජනගායනා
සිරස වසන්ත කුමරිය තේරීම ඇතුළු තවත් ජන ක්‍රීඩා රැසක් සමගින්
අප්‍රේල් මස 6 වෙනිදා උදෑසන 7 සිට දවස පුරා ගල්නෑව මහවැලි ක්‍රීඩාංගණයේදී
තරග සඳහා ඔබේ අයදුම් පත්‍රය අදම බහර දෙන්න. ක්‍රීඩා නිලධාරී නේවාසික ව්‍යාපාර කළමනාකරණ කාර්යාලය ශ්‍රී ලංකා මහවැලි අධිකාරිය හමුත්තේගම.
විමසීම් 071 015 0430.
Every day, millions face the impossible. What happens when clean water feels out of reach? When an entire village is left helpless? When it seemed like no one is listening, Gammatha saw the need. Gammatha took action and a community fought back. A water purification system for a village that once had none. Gammatha, for the people, by the people.
Newsfirst, face to face with Jamal Ratnayaka.
Welcome back to Face to Face. I am in discussion with Rehan Jayawickreme, former chairman of the Waligama Urban Council and the current organizer for the SJB of the Waligama electorate. Rehan, before we crossed over, we were talking about the SJB, we were talking about the local government polls, and I want to come back to the local government polls and ask you if you are satisfied with the candidate that has been named or nominated to run as the mayor of Colombo. There were many names being thrown around. Hirunika Premachandra was someone who presented herself saying that she could be a good fit. And then society, I believe a majority of Colombo wanted Iran to be in the fray as well. But Dr. Ruiz Hanifa was ultimately selected as the mayoral candidate by the SJB. Why do you believe that such a decision was made by the SJB ultimately?
I don't know the intricacies behind it. But then one thing I can tell you is that I've done a little bit of research about Dr. Ruiz. I haven't heard anything adverse about him. I have not heard that he's corrupt. I heard that he is a very dedicated man to his profession, which is being a doctor. I heard he's a brilliant administrator. And the only thing is, I think the candidate announcement was delayed. I think the SJB should have done it before the NPP, before NPP named Rai as the candidate.
Yes.
But I don't see a problem with him. I'm not quite sure what his political background is. I also know that he's the son-in-law of, I think, Mr. M.H. Mohammed.
Right.
I think he's married to Mr. M.H. Mohammed's daughter. I mean, I don't see it as being a bad appointment because I think it was offered to Iran. I don't think Iran was interested.
Right.
I don't know whether Iran was interested or whether the SJB refused to give him. But from what I know, Iran was not in acceptance with it. I know Hirunika did not express interest in running for mayor because she, just like me, we both lost our elections together. So back to your question, I don't see anything adverse about that candidacy. I think he's a pretty good candidate.
Right. So overall, do you believe that at the local government election, because it's somewhat personal when it comes to local government elections, it's not about a politician's stature, how he speaks to the crowds at a canvassing. It's all about how personable you can be, how you go and speak to the people in your ward. And sometimes you might even vote because he's your friend or because he did you a favor. And that type of mindset, I believe Sri Lankans need to move out of at this particular election if we are to witness true system change. Do you believe that that needs to be changed? Or Sri Lankans should just go for the person that has helped them the most?
I think that's a very catch-22 type question because there are two sides to it.
Yes.
One side is that it's a very personal election because, for example, Weligama Urban Council has 11 wards.
Right.
Just giving you an example.
Okay.
So those 11 wards have one ward, the maximum has about 4,000 wards. The other ones are fairly small wards.
Okay.
So there's a sense of belonging among the people that are contesting. For example, the NPP candidate is also very good friends with the SJB candidate. The SJB candidate is also very good friends with the UMP candidate.
I see.
So people in the village, the way they measure this election is very different to how they measure a parliamentary election. This is all about who comes to the funeral house, who comes...
it's that apeka mentality.
Apekama, you know, the our mentality.
Yes.
So it's a very personal election. So I don't know whether it will shift. Earlier, it was because of the person.
Right.
But then again, there have been elections where that was completely different. Where when the Pohottuwa contested the 2018 for the first time, the local government election, they wiped clean everything. Because people, for example, if my name was on the ballot from Hettividya in Weligama, from the NPP, from the Pohottuwa, the people wouldn't see me. They would see Mahinda Rajapaksa.
Yes.
Now in this election also, when they see a candidate, they will automatically align that candidate with the president of the country, Andu Kumar Dissanayake. His Excellency, Andu Kumar Dissanayake. So this again is going to be a very difficult election in terms of system change. I don't think it will be so. The first thing that needs to change in this country, Jayamal, is the electoral system. The electoral system has to come back to the ward system it is now for the local government elections. As long as we have this electoral system which was changed after 1977, and by the way, the JVP should be happier because it's because of J.R. Jayawardena's constitution that they have so many seats. That system has to change where you have a MP for the electorate. Because how do you expect a MP not to be corrupt when they have to not alone not just run their electorate when they have to run the entire district. So electoral system has to change. But back to your question, I think that this election too, people will vote, but this will happen in a mixed way this time. There'll be people who vote for the Apekama, and there'll be people that vote thinking that President Ranil Kumara Dissanayake himself is on the ballot.
I see, understood. So moving away from your party's conversations and the local government elections, are you satisfied with how the NPP is running the country since President Ranil Kumara Dissanayake was elected and 2/3 majority was won over by the NPP in November 2024? How have affairs of the state been going according to your reading?
Okay, to begin with, I think they talked a lot of talk. And they spoke about various things that they would do. They said they're going to end the rice mafia with one signature. They said they are going to make sure that 20 to 30 people will be in jail within the first 24 hours of them getting elected. They also said that they will reduce the cost of living. You've got to be very careful when you're selling rhetoric that you can't really establish.
Right.
Let's go one by one. The price of goods, have they really come down? I don't think so. When you talk about people landing, people being thrown to jail, that itself is a useless rhetoric because politicians shouldn't have the power to put people in jail. That power should be rested with the judicial system. If you don't like the judicial system and the way it operates, you can change certain acts in the legal fraternity, which makes it easier to prosecute cases. Then when it comes to their squeaky clean image, someone that really took everything by storm was the speaker. Blatantly lied about his qualifications. The former speaker. I mean, absolutely lied, and lies even to this day. Landed his entire party in a mess. And the only reason the speaker resigned was because there was going to be a no confidence motion the next day. And irrelevant of whether the SJB won that no confidence motion or not, the NPP didn't want to be in a position where if the speaker's credentials are fake, they would have had to take the brunt, much like how the Ranil Wickremesinghe regime voted for Kehliya Ravukalwa's no confidence voted against it. Okay, because now the entire country knows that the people who voted for that will never land themselves in parliament again.
Yes.
So, do I think that they have not kept to their promises? Yes. But then there's a flip side. The flip side is, what would have happened if they actually gave the freebies that they were supposed to give at the budget? What would have happened? The country would have collapsed in a day. So anyone who came would have had to go along with this IMF program. We really didn't have a choice. So, do I think that they are better than some of the predecessors? Yes. Do I see their ministers behaving in a more acceptable manner than our previous ministers have? Yes, I agree. Do I think that they will perform, and do I think that they will keep to their promises? The fact that they still have not removed the Speaker of the Parliament, the former Speaker, and as an MP, or forced his resignation as an MP, because this guy is still a liar. And he lied, and he said when he resigned from the post of Speaker, he said he's going to subsequently furnish his qualifications. Those qualifications don't exist. So the litmus test is also what happened with Deshabandhu. That man was in Sri Lanka for 17 days. So are you telling me that a guy who plucks a mango and gets caught and is been taken to jail can be found in a matter of hours? Are you telling me that they couldn't find Deshabandhu?
But the current IGP cannot be found.
The current IGP could not be found.
Because he is, as a matter of fact, still the IGP, because although he's suspended.
And what's the government going to do when if the Supreme Court reinstates his duties? It's not easy to remove IGP. I don't know whether you're aware, Jamal. It's very difficult. It's not something that you have to first go through the Constitutional Council. Before that it has to go to the Ethics Committee. Before that it has to go to a Parliament. There are multiple things that need to happen. So, and also, a lot of people are talking about Deshabandhu Tennako. No one's talking about Prasanna Ranavira, who has been wanted for over 20, the case that former Minister Mervyn Silva was arrested for. Prasanna Ranavira is still hiding. So where is he? Where is law and order in the country? So the litmus test for this government is going to be what they are going to do with regard to law and order. And I sincerely wish this government all the best, Jayamal, because I don't want, just because I'm an opposition politician, I don't want my country to suffer. My country, your country, our country has suffered enough. And now we deserve someone better. We deserve something better. We deserve better governance. We deserve politicians that will not sell only on rhetoric. This is the only country that we have, Jayamal. This is the only country that I have. I have no dual citizenship in any other country. And my humble opinion is, let's do right by this country. And to my party, I say, let's criticize the NPP for where it matters.
On its vices, yes.
But let's not talk about these silly things about, the promises they made in the past and all, because that doesn't matter anymore. What matters is moving forward. And we don't have to constantly tell the people that they've been hoodwinked, because these are our own people. So why run them down? The people themselves will decide. So let's give the people a good alternative to vote for. Let's just not make it a situation where they say, just because the NPP is bad, not like we're going to vote for someone else.
Yes.
Let's be the change. Let's act like the change. And we should always remember, Jayamal, that you, me, everyone watching, we are the system. The system is not outside.
It's not outside.
We are the system. And we need to change certain things about us before we expect politicians to change. And have we changed as a nation? I don't think so.
Understood. Very candid, very open, very honest. Thank you very much for joining me on Face to Face in a very engrossing conversation, from local government elections to political hustings and also the overall running and state of affairs of our country at present. Rehan Jayawickreme was my guest this evening. Thank you very much, Rehan, for your appearance. Always a pleasure having you on the show. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for Face to Face tonight. Thank you very much for stopping by. Do join us tomorrow, same time, same place. Take care and good night.
Newsfirst, face to face with Jayamal